In just over a week, Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan will deliver the budget speech, which is surely going to ask consumers to tighten their spending belts as usual in the wake of a tough economic climate. Already, the TransUnion Consumer Credit Index has indicated that consumers are wary of taking more credit due to the current tough economic conditions. The TransUnion Consumer Credit Index for the fourth quarter declined marginally to 49.6 index points from 50.3 in the third quarter. 50 is the break-even level between improvement and deterioration. So to speak to us a little bit more about the index is the new TransUnion Africa CEO, Naik. Good to have you in studio, Lee. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So we talk about new. How long have you been in the position for now?
Since 3 January.
Really? Fantastic.
Just about 6 weeks.
Okay, so it's a brand spanking new position for you. All the best. I hope it goes all very, very well for you.
Thanks, Leanne.
Lee, let's talk about things that we can sort of have a look forward to when it comes to, particularly this year, economically. I mean, let's keep this on the back burner for a bit. What are you predicting economically for South Africa for 2017?
Well, I think it's early days. We've just had SONA last week, and that came with a fair bit of speculation as to what that would mean. Coupled with the global macroeconomic setup from an American and a Europe perspective, we still don't really know what Brexit means, as well as the North American attitude towards Africa will be in the short to medium term. Ultimately, when those economics come into play, it tends to have a bearing on our local setup, specifically as far as inflation and interest rates go.
Yeah, so in other words, the word that's jumping out is uncertainty. Nobody knows what to expect from this year.
Well, not for the next few quarters at least.
Okay. All right. So let's have a look at this index that's come out now. Quarter four of last year, you know, that's the festive season. It's the festive season where people want to buy presents, they want to borrow, they tend to get themselves into a little bit of trouble when it comes to buying gifts and spoiling themselves and thinking, don't worry about it, the bank will worry about it, which is a problem. How was it this month? How did it look this particular season?
Well, it's really pleasing for us as TransUnion. We've actually had 4 straight quarters of improvement in this index, right? So we've seen a stabilization over the entire 4-quarter period, where the index was in and around the 50 mark, which tells us that there's a stabilization in behavior, not necessarily a vast improvement in the overall credit health, but a general stabilization. And there are 2 things to bear in mind. Over that December period where quarter 4 considered, we saw that the rate of default accounts, and that's accounts for new consumer accounts that have gone lapse over a 3-month period where people have not paid their accounts.
Yeah.
So the first thing was that this index around the default accounts actually improved year on year. The second thing, which is quite interesting, is that many people have access to revolving credit. And we found that in this year on year index that we track in that quarter 4 period, the index also improved. So it's quite interesting in that consumers have started to become a lot more aware of their finances, a lot more aware of the costs of credit, and coupled with the entire tendency of the environment, the landscape to be a lot more prudent, we've seen a much better improvement in credit health.
That's quite incredible, and it's quite impressive as well at the same time. I mean, just to elaborate a little bit more on what you were saying, to put it in numbers for people, new accounts in default, which basically means 3 months in arrears, fell by 1.4% year on year. So, I mean, that is good news. Why do you think this is the case? What's happening with the psyche of South Africans?
Well, I had a chance to look at some of the retail data that came available earlier this year. One of the key things we found was that the likes of a ShopRite was doing quite a lot better compared to its high-end competitors, the likes of a Woolworths or a Truworths. And the reality is, as consumers, we're now under household cash flow pressure. In fact, since 2009, we've seen the point where we've now had, since 2009, the lowest rates of household cash flow, meaning that people are in a situation where inflation's high, the wage income has not increased that much, and as a household, we're struggling to afford things. So we're going to be a lot more judicious. So individuals are going to ask themselves, can I wait 3 months, 6 months to buy something? Should I rather buy it at a different store compared to where I always bought it? Equally, so the pressure will go onto the likes of Woolworths and Truworths and Edcon to ask themselves, how do they keep driving this proposition to their target market that's now a lot more judicious?
Sure. So people are becoming much more financially savvy, and they're looking around, shopping for better deals, and wanting to ensure that they do get a good deal as opposed to just impulse buying?
Well, the reality is we've had a massive credit expansion between 2009 and 2014.
Yeah.
With the NCA and the credit regulator coming into place, I think the prudency from the lenders and the entire regulatory system has really helped.
Okay.
And the reality is that it's making us, making the entire economy a lot more stable and allowing consumers to be a lot more prudent as to how they take on new debt.
Yeah. Explain this to us. Estimated national household bank debt as a percentage of disposable income is at 74%. The other interesting fact is that household cash flow remained weak in the fourth quarter of 2016. What's the correlation here?
Well, so one of the key things is that I think debt levels are generally still high relative to your disposable income. So that 74% talks about the percent of your income coming to you every month that you use to service debt. So you have some kind of instrument, some kind of facility, whether it's a home loan, a credit card that you're servicing. So that hasn't really changed over the intervening period. What has changed is the pressure on the household. So we've seen, for example, in December that the inflation rate's gone up from 6.6 up to 6.8. Now, compared with the very low to no wage income growth, the pressure burden does apply to the household. Yeah. So we're going to struggle to afford basic commodities. And you asked the question earlier, what are we expecting to see come 22nd of February? What is Pravin Gordhan going to tell us for the budget that may impact on us?
Yes.
One of the big speculations right now, and we don't know, we'll have to wait and see, is whether the tax rate will actually be increased, right? And then consequently, if the personal tax rates do increase, what does it mean for the person on the street? What does it mean for their day-to-day ability to purchase goods, whether it's petrol, paraffin, whether it's basic commodities like candles? So when you apply a broad-based instrument like a tax increase, we have to think about what it means for the lower LSMs of our population.
Yeah. So where's those hidden taxes that we, whether it's hidden into the petrol price or hidden into different areas of our lives that it affects us, but they're hidden. Those are the ones that I suppose the minister always looks at and tries to make up. I mean, are we going to start seeing a lot more of those increasing and putting a burden on South Africans? We're already burdened, that's a fact. But I mean, I imagine that tax base for us is going to get heavier.
Well, the reality is that we're in quite a grey area right now. Yeah. We've had a long period since March 2016 where the rates have not gone up. Inflation's been at a high level. So I guess the question is, what could that do? Yeah. And I guess when I spoke earlier around the global macroeconomic climate, as well as the local climate for that matter, it's only a matter of time before something does give in. And that will have an impact on the consumer's ability to service debt as well as acquire new credit.
Yeah. Just finally, as we wrap up, I mean, how accurate is this index in terms of measuring and analysing macroeconomic factors?
Well, it's pretty accurate as far as we see it. So the key thing is as to why it's accurate is that it uses objective available data. In one part, we tap into TransUnion's credit database, which has 53 million accounts spanning 23 million active credit users. And the second thing is we combine that with data available from the SAB as well as Stats SA regarding cash flow, ability to service debt. When you put these available quantitative metrics together, we believe it gives us a good leading indicator as to the state of consumer health in the country.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you for talking to us. Thanks for your analysis. And this was Naik, the CEO of TransUnion Africa, just taking over the position at the beginning of this year. Wishing him the best of luck. Thank you so much for your analysis here on the program. And remember, it is the budget next week, so that's something that we're looking at very, very closely. We'll analyse it in the run-up to it. But a tough balancing act once again for our Finance Minister as he delivers that budget on the 22nd of February. All right, we can take a break here on the program. It's 3 minutes to the top of the hour. We'll bring you the news. And remember, Morning Live on your screens all the way until 9 o'clock. Do stay with us.